All right, let's look at another tool. Let's look at the scissors tool. I'm going to go ahead and just draw a circle here. And I'm going to go to my scissors tool. And then I'm going to come over, and what the scissors tool does is just cut the lines. So I'm going to come here, and I'm just going to, let's make this have no fill first of all so we can see better just the lines. I'm going to come here with my scissors tool, and I'm just going to snip it. Well, we'll snip it right here. And we'll snip it down here. And now we have 2/2 of a circle. So that's all the scissors tool does. It's a way to basically create a break in a path and create 2 points where there may have been none or maybe one previously. So that is the scissors tool. Next, let's take a look at the blob brush. The blob brush is actually a really interesting tool that can be very handy. The blob brush is right underneath here under the brush tool. Shift B is the keyboard shortcut for the blob brush. And the blob brush, if I want to have a bigger or smaller brush, I'm going to use the brackets. So the right bracket gives me a bigger brush. The left bracket gives me a smaller brush. And you'll see I'm going to go to about here, and then I'm just going to draw. Let's go ahead and make this blue. And I'm going to draw, and at first glance, it looks like just the brush tool. But when I let go, oh, I need to go and fill that blue, sorry. When I go and I select this, what you'll see, I'm going to go ahead and set this to have a black stroke and a no fill so you can see what it did. It actually creates a shape out of what I drew. Okay, so by drawing it that way, it creates a line on the outside, or a path on the outside of what I drew, and the whole inside of what I'm drawing is fill. So let's do that again. I'm going to go with the blob brush and watch this. I'm going to cross that one, and look what it did this time. It actually combined those into a single path. So when you're using the blob brush, anytime you overlap it, it actually combines it. But what you're doing is you're drawing, and when it finishes drawing, it creates paths around the outside of what you drew, and the inside is the fill. And again, if you cross over something, then it adds to it. Now, there's a caveat to that. It only does it if it's the same color. If I don't want it to add to this, then I can come and say, okay, so I don't want you to be that color anymore. I want you to be blue. And you'll see that that will not actually combine with the other one. It will become its own. So there's the blob brush shape that I made with the blue. And then let's go ahead and just reverse those. Then you can see there's the blob brush shape that I made with the blue, and there's one I made with the black. So same color, it will combine. Different colors, it will just overlay it and won't actually combine it at all. But whatever you draw with the blob brush, again, becomes outlined and becomes a shape in and of itself. So very, very handy in certain situations. Let's say, for example, that I now wanted to fill in, well, let's go ahead and get rid of this blue one. Let's say I wanted to fill in this gap here. Again, I could just make sure that's set to the same color, black, and then I can go to my blob brush and just fill it in. Just scribble it, and it has combined, and now this is a single shape in there. So that is the blob brush. Let's move on and look at transformations. Transformations can be very useful. I'm going to go ahead and draw something that we'll be, let's just use the pen tool and draw kind of a random shape so that we can see what the transformations are doing a little better. All right, here we have kind of a random shape. The transformations, there's a couple of places. Right here I've got this transform, and I can transform things by the width and height and skew them. But the main thing I want to look at is up here under Object and Transform. And I have Move, Rotate, Reflect, Scale, and Shear. Now if I click on one, let's go to Rotate first of all. You'll see here that I want to click Preview usually so I can see what it's doing. And I can rotate this object, and it rotates it in there. Now, I have an option. I can either click OK and it will rotate that, or I can click Copy and it will leave my original one and create a rotated copy of it. So let's look at the other ones. I've got Move, Object, Transform, move. And this I could just say, yeah, I want you to move this far horizontally or this far vertically at an angle or not at an angle, and then I could copy it or OK. I've got object transform reflect, which allows me to flip it vertically or horizontally or at a different angle. I've got object transform and scale, so I can resize it, maybe 200% the size, 50% the size. And I've got object transform and shear. Shear allows me to basically slant it at an angle. So if I go ahead and click preview, you'll notice that I'm going to just shear it like that, and you see how it's kind of angling it. Now you'd see that better. Let's do that with this a rectangle, and you'll see a little better what that's doing. So there's a rectangle, object transform shear, and you can see how it's putting it at a slant. So those are the transformations and can be very, very useful. Especially I use the reflect one quite often to mirror something to flip it over.